So you know what's happening in the health science community? Now I've been talking about this for a while. I've actually been showing the evidence on this. For example, just in the health community, when it comes to oh crap, I can't remember the niche. Oh well, what the hell was it? Anyway, I can't remember. But there was a scientific group that essentially does a vast majority of their peer review and releases a lot of these scientific studies that go into the stuff that leads to medicines you take, right? So that those are the studies that are backed by the medicine that is created for the stuff that you guys take for a variety of your different medicines. And it was about 6 months ago, I think, on one of my daily tech news, and they said, please stop creating AI generated science research. We are being inundated with scientific studies that come straight out of AI generation. And as a result of that, in 2022 or 2021, we were dealing with 94 papers a year, if I remember correctly. Now we're dealing with something like 280 papers a year, and the peer review process was already inundated for them. They already couldn't keep up with everything that was going on but a few years ago. Now it's even worse, and they have to discern between AI generated crap and the real stuff. So yes, of course this is going to be a huge problem. As you can imagine, the more that this continues, the more that we're going to have science backed medicine that's not really science backed. It's backed by AI, which is sycophantic. And so when you tell the AI, hey, what do you think of this scientific research? It goes, yeah, man. And I thought this was a really good fable. I wanted to read this real quick because it really outlines exactly how this plays out. It's like a fable that outlines the AI version of this, right? Once upon a time, two villagers, here, let me see if I can zoom in a bit. Two villagers visited the fabled Mullah Nasreddin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. They hoped that the Sufi philosopher, famed for his acerbic wisdom, could mediate a dispute that had driven a wedge between them. Nasreddin listened patiently to the first villager's version of the story, and upon its conclusion exclaimed, "You are absolutely right." The second villager then presented his case. After hearing him out, Nasreddin again responded, "You are absolutely right." An observant bystander, confused by Nasreddin's proclamations, interjected, "But Mullah, they can't both be right." Nasreddin paused, regarding the bystander for a moment before replying, "You are absolutely right too." And there you go. That's what AI is, and that's how these things operate. So we have Maha, Make America Healthy Again, who have cited non-existent research studies that came out of AI. We have the FDA, who teamed up with OpenAI to create this thing called ELSA. And as a result of that, they had massive failures across the board. They had to slow down their use of AI. And then we have the scientific community, which are also, unfortunately, allowing papers like this to come out and be treated as if they were scientific. And so the hallucinations, for example, they take place in the form of non-existent research studies, clinical interactions that never happened. They produce authoritative sounding language that shrouds their outputs in a facsimile of truth. That's one of the other things that people don't get. Do you guys remember when you would have a conversation with a friend and they would go, "Oh, I Googled it"? That's essentially what these LLM systems are, but now they're infiltrating the legal system, they're infiltrating the medical system, they're infiltrating the military, all kinds of stuff. So they create a bias in someone who goes, "Oh, AI generated it," and people automatically assume, "Oh, it's AI, so it must have access to like a ton of information. It's got access to I don't know, a whole bunch of databases, kind of like what I would assume I would do on Google. It just automates that process, and then it filters it out properly, and it takes the right context, yada yada yada, and all this stuff is backed by big companies. So of course, when it tells me something that's confident, you psychologically would have an affinity towards believing that or to accepting that as something that is confidently true, and it simply is not. A lot of people don't have the ability to discern between whether or not something is a hallucination or is not, unless you're very well versed in the topic. Just imagine what happens now when you take a drug, okay, or when you take some kind of like, pharmaceutical from your doctor because you're having like a headache, and all of a sudden the penile enlargement actually works. Unfortunately, that might be a win for AI. Because if you think about it, AI is probabilistic, right? So there is a small probability that it actually just hallucinates the right cocktail, the right pharmaceutical cocktail to actually make penis enlargement work. Yes, it could happen. So maybe I'm all in on AI right now for no reason at all, by the way. I have no reason. I just, I'm just saying, if there's a probability that the Saudi Arabian prince who's sending me money to invest in the penile enlargement, the company that he's starting, if there's a chance that that actually works, I'm down or up, depending on your perspective.